us. Thank you all for being here today. This is our second workshop for our Emotional Health Month here at Healthy Lifestyles. And we have Chris Forsdick with us today to talk about reducing stress. And I know that that is a huge topic with our population. Before we begin, I will put in the chat box the link to sign in for your Healthy Lifestyles points. And I'll also include a link to our other emotional health activities we have going on this month. We have live meditations, we have weekly challenges, podcast series, and some QPR trainings as well. But I'll turn the time over to you, Chris, and let you introduce yourself, and we'll get rolling.
Okay. I'll start sharing my screen first. So I'm Chris Forsdick. I'm a recreation therapist that works in the inpatient behavioral health unit at St. Mark's Hospital. I'm also work in our intensive outpatient program with the perinatal program. So I have been working for 9 years in behavioral health, and I know that daily stress is something that's really in the forefront of our news. It's in the forefront of everyone's life at this time. And with our continuing, and increasing stressors with life because of our pandemic. So we're just going to move along. If I can find my keyboard. Whoops. Oh dear. All right. So I always like to start with, what is stress? Stress is when our pressure in life, and whether it's just within hours or within days, months, or like right now with the years of our pandemic, it's those pressures are greater than our current resources. And so that's how we identify stress. Stress does affect our brain and our body's response to any demands. It's the body's response to any physical and emotional changes in our life. And I think a lot of us have noticed a lot of changes, especially in emotional lives within our family groups, our work groups, maybe our social and peer groups. So we might be seeing some of that. And stress, when it does occur, when our bodies and minds might be out of balance, and lots of different things can knock ourselves out of balance. The effects of stress are very different for every person. So stress does affect every one of us. And not all stress is bad. Our stress levels will change from day to day. Sometimes we manage day-to-day stressors better than other days, and we can see kind of why later on in this presentation. Not all stress is bad. Our stressors are good because they motivate us sometimes. And when you think about stress as a it's one of those signals to us that things need to be changing for us. So when we look at, some stress can be good in our lives. It helps us to make alterations so we can have that flow back in our daily life. But long-term stress can take a toll on your health. We might have increased anxiety and depression, and so longer-term stress and things that we aren't used to having in our life does increase depression and anxiety. And that's something that we've really seen over the pandemic. I'm not sure how many of you watch like our local news, but it seems like once a week, the news stations are out interviewing mental health providers, to help work on and talk about depression and anxiety as life has been altered so much. And of course, long-term health can create changes or long-term illnesses in our digestive system, our cardiovascular system, immune and reproductive system. And you all may know with increased stressors in your life, our sleep patterns get very altered. So the signs of stress on your body are you may experience headaches. We might notice the muscle tension, maybe in our arms, our necks. People might notice more muscle tension in their legs. Somewhere within our bodies, we will notice the stress. A lot of anxiety can create chest pain, rapid heart rate. We might feel more fatigued. Sometimes stressors really can create some of that nausea and the lack of having an appetite, or it can change our habits and cause diarrhea or constipation. So all of those digestive systems can be altered with increased stress. Sleep problems. Sometimes we sleep too much, so we escape our stressors. Other times we're not able to sleep because those stressors just keep going around and around in our minds trying to solve them. And then, of course, a change in sex drive. We might be affecting your body. Our moods really can get affected by stress. So if we notice and recognize stress within ourselves, having increased anxiety, more than just having cups of coffee and that jitteriness. It's sometimes anxiety can lead to panic feelings, being restless, kind of not being able to focus and kind of just moving from problem to, or, task to task and not being able to work on that. Stress can increase our lack of motivation. We might be saying to ourselves, why bother? It's like it's not going to change what I can do. So our lack of motivation and our emotional outlook on projects or our stressors may decline. And it could really affect our ability to concentrate. With those minds and all our thoughts and how much stressors and our daily programs and lives and things really can affect our ability to attend to the task that's here at hand. Feelings of being overwhelmed. It's like sometimes we feel like we have a banquet plate just loaded with things versus how a manageable day might feel more like that little salad plate. So being overwhelmed is one of those signs within our moods. We might be really irritable, short, and frank. We might get snippy with our loved ones or coworkers. We might just get really angry and having anger about our situation or the lack of control over situations. So being able to notice that anger and verbal outbursts that we might be experiencing. Sadness is another thing when we start increasing and knowing our levels of sadness, or when it turns into more and depression, this feeling that nothing that you can do is going to help. I think depression really leads to a sense of just lack of control, lack of ability, and so it's just a difficult thing to monitor or to work through. Signs of stress on our behaviors, because our moods and emotions can definitely affect our behaviors. So we might have changes in eating habits. We always think of comfort food when we're stressed, when we go and we might be overeating or choosing those comfort foods that just, feel so good to us. Or maybe our appetites are just gone, and so we aren't eating well. And so when we're not eating well or hydrating ourselves, our brains and bodies don't have the fuel to work on managing and problem solving through our daily stressors. We might have those verbal anger outbursts. Sometimes we might know people who get physical with their outbursts. Having a difficult time, maybe we throw things or punch walls. So some of our behaviors are not the most healthy. But, there is a lot to be said about letting it out and having that yelling verbal outburst to get those emotions out sometimes, just being aware of how it feels to maybe scream in your pillow, letting that anger outburst out versus yelling at our coworkers and loved ones and saying things we might regret. Using drugs and alcohol to manage stressors are not the best. We all know that overuse is very harmful to ourselves, and it's just a very quick fix that people are looking for, an immediate fix, but in the long run, those problems and stressors are still there. So withdrawing, we might withdraw and start isolating when our stress levels increase. Sometimes thinking that if I just don't put myself out there and if I stay to myself, things might go away. When in actuality, having social support and social interaction is the opposite of, trying to solve problems by withdrawing. We might exercise less. So, changing and all those patterns that we have when we're doing well, when we socially interact and with our family and friends, when we're regularly are exercising. So if we notice our changes through that withdrawal, through no longer exercising and other activities that we may enjoy, that could be a sign of that stress now taking a toll on your behavior. So daily routines and hassles definitely add to our stress. Oftentimes we get into these lovely routines, and that's where my favorite saying is I'm doing well. I like it when nothing changes. So having that daily routine helps manage our stress levels. But we do have unexpected minor events that definitely set off our routines that could start adding to new stressors. I think everyone well, I know I am, and my household, it's like an unexpected illness or any time we start feeling sick, it's that big stressor in our mind is this COVID? And so any illness right now, we kind of spike it, but even illness, if it's stomach flu or a head cold, sets off our normal routine. If we have children at home, now we have to manage and deal with those things. Unexpected problems in traffic. We don't get to, always know if there's going to be an accident right ahead of us. Even using our Google apps and planning ahead so we can see where clog zones are or any construction and things, those little accidents and things could happen while you're in the moment of getting to and from work. We do get brand new and unexpected deadlines thrown on us. Our children may come up and all of a sudden say, hey, I have this assignment due, or oh, I need to do this. Or our bosses, update and bring in new things to us where it's new and unexpected to them, and they're passing it down to you. And so we do get unexpected things that pop up in our day. No matter how well we plan, sometimes we do get up late, or those in our life that we're managing in that daily routine get up late, which throws everything off. Having equipment malfunction. Sometimes our phones die. Sometimes we cannot find our chargers. What if the toaster died this morning? So we look at different things. I mean, how many times have you gone out to, well, maybe not often, but you go get in your car and you have a flat tire. or you're running out of gas and you didn't notice, or even a dead battery. So these things can be equipment malfunctions that we don't really plan for. Some underlying and other personal concerns can add to our daily levels of stress. We might be not really thinking, but money can be a concern and a little stressor behind some of our thought processes. So we look at, am I losing money because my child is sick or I'm sick? Um, we might be concerned about our personal performance. So, adding stress to life, it's like if we have a new unexpected deadline, are we able to step up and perform? Even if you get a new job, we wonder sometimes, what is my performance level? We're not always validated in daily routines of life to know, are we performing at an expected level? And so those things can be a personal concern in the back of your mind. And of course, wasting time sometimes can be a concern, where we might observe other people who might be wasting time where we're working really hard. And that kind of creates that underlying kind of thought processes that kind of get us stewed up, which is adding to our stress. And of course, our own appraisal of our own stress. How do we perceive our stressors? It's if we take that step back and look at and appraise our stress. So using those signs of stress in your body, in your mood, and your behavior, really we can assess and appraise our levels of stress through what's happening within those systems of our bodies. Ways to manage your personal stress is, of course, being observant. The more observant we are, the better we are able to respond. It only takes 90 seconds. So really, 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds for us to stop, take that step back and observe what's going on for us. We get a chemical reaction in our bodies, whether it's that anger, whether it's irritability, those fears and panic, those chemical responses do leave our bodies within 90 seconds. So use that time to just breathe and be observant of what's going on for yourself. Setting goals and priorities, deciding what needs to be done right now and what can wait really can help us with our stressors. Some Sometimes we have to learn how to say no to new tasks. If we're, starting to load that little tiny plate that we have, it starts getting piled on to where things are now falling off. So setting priorities and goals is a really important part. Our self-care, listening to the mental health experts out in the news feeds, and maybe you see these in Instagram or other social media. When we get proper sleep, proper nutrition, and daily exercise, our bodies and brains are at their best. So we are more resilient to be able to manage our stressors as they come. It's an important part to take care of our bodies and brains in that self-care piece. Staying connected. Do we even know what resources and people are in our lives that we can utilize? Staying connected and using our resources can put us out of a comfort zone where we might have to rely on those resources. So staying connected is having people in your lives, having those resources so you can seek help and get that help where we need it. Talking to your support system. Do we even have a support system? Who are those people? Talk to your partners. When we identify how we are feeling and sharing, I'm feeling this way, it's really a good, way to work with those people in our lives. Our supervisors and leaders are people who we, can talk to. They all want us to be working. our leaders and most businesses understand that keeping that employee employed is better than, having employees leave over stressors, because we already know how to do jobs. We current employees are worth the investment to keep us on the job than hiring brand new people. So use your leaders and supervisors. Talk to them about personal and or work stressors to see where we can get help that way. And of course, finding mental health and health professionals. Mindfulness, breathing. So I heard at the very beginning, Sadie said that you guys have meditation classes or opportunities to work on that. Anything we can do to become mindful, which leads to that observant on the very first way of managing our stress. Taking breath moments, sitting quietly, taking maybe 10 breaths focused can really change your mindset. Find wellness and relaxation programs in your community or start using them in your home. There's so many apps on our cell phones that we can use to find relaxation and wellness programs. A lot of corporations have those programs for their employees, as you may know. Finding meditation. Oftentimes there's a big misunderstanding of what meditation is. There's different ways of meditating. Sometimes it's just focusing on objects. It might be that we all think we have to empty our mind, but it's really about being aware of what's going on in our mind and our body and working that way. Muscle relaxation is a really good way. There's a lot of resources on YouTube and once again on phone apps that teach you muscle relaxation techniques, which help really get that anxiety and anger out of our physical bodies. Ways to reduce your daily stressors. Planning ahead. It's always great to be able to plan ahead. If we have babies and toddlers at home, when you get home from work, refill those diaper bags. Help those children get their backpacks ready for the next day. Planning ahead. Some of us meal plan ahead, and that can really help. So anything that you can do to plan ahead is going to help reduce daily stressors. It's when we have families and partners, we can all work together and kind of look at a weekly schedule. The night before, planning ahead for the next day, who's got time and things to use our resources in developing that plan. Being realistic. That's a hard thing to do, but to be realistic about what can we really do? How much really can we get done in a day is kind of something that we need to be aware of. And I think there again, bringing those support systems, the people involved in your life and your work community, being realistic of what and timelines and planning that way can be helpful. Being able to anticipate and adjust. Anticipate as we may, things do happen. But being able to adjust to those unexpected things is really a beneficial way to reduce. We're more easily able to adjust to problems when our minds and bodies are at their best. So having and quick problem solving is a good way to work through that. Divide and conquer, using our resources, using those family members, maybe our work teams, dividing and conquering. That comes with using the strengths of other people. I may know where my strengths are, and I most definitely know what I'm not really good at. So using a team is going to help us kind of divide and conquer, utilizing everyone's strengths and to get those tasks done to reduce our stress. It's kind of interesting when you think about one person's stress in say a work unit or the home unit. Those stressors can kind of be felt through other people in the household, and just even saying I'm kind of stressed about this helps everyone kind of step up and use that divide and conquer piece. Being able to compromise. You know, if people come to us and they need something right away and you're not able to right away, compromise. I can do this in a couple of hours, you know, or, I can do this portion of it. So learn where you can also put your talents and compromise what you're able to do. Of course, being flexible, you know, it's kind of hard when we're having headaches, when we don't feel our best, when our brains are just overwhelmed. Those things are hard to do. But if we're able to take a step back, take some breathing rooms, those skills are going to be easier to do. Thinking outside the box really helps us problem solve. It helps us to identify other strategies. And it's that creative piece to solving problems. Maybe you've never tried something like that to solve problems, but it's always worth a try. If we think of things and don't implement them, then we will never know if it would have solved some problems and helped us to reduce stress. So letting people know and working on thinking outside the box is a really good way to try things to reduce stress. Of course, picking your battles. I think the best words of advice that I was given was, whose emergency is it? Picking our battles, is it really worth fighting over what kind of meal it is, at least they're eating? Is it really worth the battle of having a clean room for your children? Pick the battle. Maybe you just need that little fire path. When we look at that other part of, it's like, whose emergency and whose problem are these, and looking at the battles that way. Of course, keeping yourself on top is all of those self-care components. If we're able to exercise every day, we may not be able to put in 30 complete full minutes at a time, but you may be able to put 2 15-minute breaks of exercise and movement. Those things add up. Maybe you could do 3 different times of 10-minute bouts of exercise. It's removing yourself for consecutive minutes that's going to change your mindset. It's going to reduce the anxiety in your brain and body from exercising. And there again, using our leisure activities is a good way to keep yourself on top. Focusing on what is meaningful, learning and identifying what is meaningful in your life. All of us have different things or similar things that are meaningful. So being able to communicate with those people and talking to people in our lives, in our work community, what's really meaningful. It kind of goes back to what you value also. So learning and identifying, is it really important to you to get good sleep? Then you will work on that. Is it really important for you to have friends in life? Then you're going to work on that. So finding and focusing on what's meaningful helps us to set schedules and place those things that are healthy for us because doing what's meaningful builds your emotional well-being. When we face our negative emotions head on, it helps us to understand what's happening. Negative emotions are actually there to help us solve problems. If you really think about 1/3 of the words that we use of emotions are the positive, more pleasant emotions that we're looking for. And so we have a lot more negative emotions. When we really can sit and identify that negative emotion, then we're going to be able to understand what it is. We have increased anger, taking that time, observing our anger. When does it happen? When and how is it the situation? So it really helps us learn those things. It helps us to identify our stress. So, because stress is one of those negative, uncomfortable feelings, when we take a step back and identify, when am I more anxious? What am I noticing? When are these situations? What was my day like? What was the night before like? So we can start seeing patterns and look for those negative emotions and kind of face them, and we can start identifying that. Speaking up for yourself. If we're overwhelmed and stressed and anxious and have headaches, do we speak up for ourselves? Or do we just withdraw and just work through what we have to do by ourselves? That's what's really important, is to know we're not alone in this. I think our society really thinks we all have to be individual, we have to be independent. If we ask for help, it's showing signs of weakness, but it's really not. A lot of people in our lives want to be able to help. They don't know how to help. So speaking up for ourselves is going to help you with your problems, and it offers that other person or people how to help us, because we know, and it's scientifically proven, that when we help and do acts of service, it boosts our emotional well-being. When we have emotional well-being, our ability to handle daily stressors is easily overcome. That didn't sound very right, but the more our emotional well-being is steady and strong and has a good foundation, we're going to be able to manage our daily stressors. So use your support system. And of course, look for ways to simplify. When we simplify our life, Marie Kondo is out there and about, and there's even people in Utah, Salt Lake City, who are simplifying our lives. Sometimes the more clutter we have in our physical life adds to the mental clutter, which adds to our daily stress. So there was an article in the Utah Stories magazine that had the Salt Lake City Marie Kondo. So look at these things and how we can work on our life. And so I believe that is all I have for you today. Are there any questions?
Yes, let's open it up to questions. If anybody would like to put something in the chat box, we will be glad to answer those for you. While we're waiting, I wanted to say something about the 90-second rule that you were talking about. We forget about it. Really only takes a minute and a half to reframe your mind. So I just kind of wanted to go along with that again and kind of bring it out in everybody's forefront. Just a little bit of breathing, or walking around for just a minute or two can really make a big difference. We have a question here. Any advice for living with a hoarder?
So hoarding is a very difficult thing because there's so many reasons why people might hoard, but working very slowly with that person on what can they let go, starting to work on allowing them to choose. Sometimes I think it's letting them work on it. Say like in the next week, can you get rid of this? So depending on what people are hoarding, it's like, what do I love? Like magazines. That's an easy one to kind of think about. Going into a person who may have stacks and stacks of magazines. Ask them, this week, I want you to be able to identify 5 magazines that mean the most to you from the years that you've saved. Sometimes we have magazines that are 20 years old stashed around. So that would be the easiest thing. These magazines, and give people a deadline. And if they struggle, then we are there with them, handing them this magazine. What does this, how meaningful is it to you? And if they can't identify, then we're going to put them aside. And that way we can get rid of things much faster. Hoarding is a difficult thing, but Marie Kondo and other people really can identify if you haven't worn those clothing, those pieces of clothing for more than in the last 3 years, you most likely won't wear them. Some people have coats that they've been wearing and saving forever. Well, if you only use it for certain weather, right? That makes sense. But do we need to have 10 coats? We look at those kinds of things. What's really meaningful? How much of you, what is the meaning and why are you keeping it? And we can work through that. Is that helpful?
Yes, I found that helpful. Thank you.
Mhm.
Next question is what if your partner is an overthinker and that stresses you?
Oh my. So I read this just recently. Martin Seligman, who is a co-founder of the PERMA model and positive psychology, was talking about how we overthink. And if he had a really good analogy to say our tongue and our teeth. Our tongue is there to not find out and just love those perfect teeth. Our tongue is there to help us get rid of seeds in our teeth. It's there to help find the cavities. So so parts of us are always looking for what's wrong. And in our brain, we naturally go to the worst thing. And sometimes it's really good to be able to look at these things. If I have this and ask, what if? What if this happens? And then there's a then. What if and then? There's a model out called the decision tree, or sometimes it's called the worry tree. And you can find all these questions. It's like, if this is a problem, what can we do about it right now? And so when we start overthinking things, it leads us to, can I take care of it right now? Or what's going to take care of it? Because we automatically jump to the worst thing possible.
Great. And so how can
That makes
she,
sense?
yes, so how can she deal with it if it's her partner who's stressing her
So,
out?
oh my goodness, just turn around and breathe. So I really think that we as a support system to that stressed partner, because they're stressed, be able to say, I acknowledge that you're stressing about this. Have you, and encourage them to write about their stressors. What are they overthinking? So encourage them to use these skills? Why don't you meditate on this problem? Why don't you write about this problem? Because when we start overthinking, there is some level of stress in that. And so to help our partners identify where their stress is, it can be very hard to be there when we as the support person looks at it and say, I can't believe this is where you're at with this. So, because we minimalize it and they have catastrophized something, and that's what overthinking is. So I think that being able to just, I understand you're very stressed about it. I can listen to you. I don't have anything new to say, is just, and find out, is just listening to you talk about this, is that helpful? Is that helpful?
Yeah, that was actually very helpful for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cindy,
Yeah.
did you have something you'd like to ask?
I guess this one was very similar. How can we keep it from affecting other people around us?
Yeah, because our emotions do get contagious, right? If we're in a
Mhm.
happy mood and bubbly, a lot of other people might get around that. So when we seem and feel stressed and tense, right? And those people are around us, I think we need to say something. I'm sorry, I'm very stressed about this. And if we talk to our coworkers or families, it's like, I'm sorry, traffic was bad, it's kind of got me all tense and stressed. And then we can say, thank you for listening to me, because sometimes just talking about our stress can reduce our level. And maybe we need to walk, to and from a break room and take those breaths so we can de-stress ourselves, so those around us will notice that reduction in that anxiety from us.
And I love that you talked about hoarding and then that person asked that question. Sometimes when we think about hoarding, we see it as something that is in our physical environment, right? But I think we do a lot of hoarding on our computers or our phones. They're overloaded with apps or just sensory overload, right? Our emails have too much in them that overwhelm us first thing in the morning. So I think also doing that Marie Kondo technique with all of our digital devices as well.
Right. And it's like to declutter your phone, we have that ability to make folders and we can put little things so, because we do put beautiful pictures of, nice calming things on our phones, but we can't see them for all the apps on our phones. So when we organize and place everything in a little folder, we learn where they are and it's easy to see when things are popping up for you. So, we look at how can we do that and change those things? Yeah. And then, when we place and move things over to folders because it is meaningful. Yeah.
Oh, yes. We have another question. It says, what if your coworkers assume you are always stressed because they have seen you once in a stress situation, and now they seem to always want to not stress you out and say that. Let's see.
Yeah.
I guess if people assume that you're a stressful person, they're always trying to
Yeah.
be cautious of that. How do you?
I think all of us have a different um, energy level. Some people move slower in their day. Other people are very quick to step. I like to think about it. People who walk, they power walk for exercise. They walk their dogs and they're just walking along, sauntering. So we look at, some of us move through life a little slower, and some of us are naturally a little more energetic, and we just move through life just a little quicker. And so it's not always stress. And so, yeah, we can have a stressor, and it may make those behaviors more noticeable. But if we were to sit back and think, yeah, we just move a little faster, or we prioritize and do things faster.
Yeah, and I think communicating that with others, oh, I was stressed in this situation, but this seemed to help me, so that we can communicate as a team or with coworkers what
Right,
helped when you were in a stressful situation.
right. Because when we share, that's kind of like, learning, oh, this helped. It's like, oh, wow, I wish I had known something like that, those resources. And so it helps us to problem solve with similar situations.
Okay, I have another one. It says, I feel I have clutter in my mind and thoughts, always thinking about COVID. Any suggestions to declutter the mind?
Meditation. I think so. Not to really push the app Headspace, but when we look at using our mind and calming it down, helps us to declutter it. When we have a lot of thoughts, it's like your washing machine just going around and around. And so when we sit down and just notice the thoughts, if we're just concentrating on breathing and noticing the thoughts that are coming back and forth, then we can say, this one keeps coming up. And we can write it down. So if we just sit there, breathe, and notice our thoughts, we can write them down. To get the clutter out, if we see it on paper, then we're going to be able to move with it. And sometimes just seeing it on paper helps us to like, oh, I can do this.
Chris, have you ever used with your patients a worry time to set aside a time of day to get out all of their worries?
No, I have never heard of that. I like that.
Yes, I actually learned it from our Deer Oaks EAP, and I found it interesting because instead of being worried all day long, if something popped into your head, you go, oh, that's perfect for my worry time. Then when you sit down to actually write them out, it you start to problem solve. Like you said,
Mhm.
you see it on paper, your brain starts to problem solve, but you're not doing it throughout the day and then right before you go to sleep thinking, okay, now is my time to worry. It's like putting it during a productive time of day rather than
Right.
just letting it overwhelm you.
Yeah, did that person have a suggested time?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you could put it on your calendar.
So like, are you taking a half an hour for that time or 10 minutes?
It's up to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at first they recommended just 10 minutes, but sometimes you start to time yourself and you can't do 10 minutes of worrying. But if you were to do it all day long in a not a structured way, it takes so much out of you and it depletes so much of your energy. So it's kind
It
of
does.
interesting.
I do like that. I'm going to write it down. The worry time.
Yeah.
That really sounds very helpful for so many people.
Do we have any other questions? Nothing on my side. Anything for you, Kim?
Oh, we just got one. I always worry about things I have no control over. That is what depletes me. I definitely understand that one.
We want to be in control of everything. And the only thing, and the whole part of that is when we're not in control, it increases our stress levels, I think. And it's a very hard thing to be observant of our thoughts and feelings with those feelings of being out of control. But the only thing we can do is acknowledge this is what I'm not in control of. And I think learning to be okay with, oh, this irritates me. I don't have control of it, and just let it go. Is that a good answer?
The person who wrote that question does that give you the answer you're looking for, or would you like a little something different or a little more information? Oh, they said that is good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, the thing
Good.
I find interesting that I do is like I will be driving to work and all of a sudden I'll have this thought that's really negative and I'm like, where did this negative thought come from? Out of the blue, I'm just driving. And if I think back on the thought process, it's always amazing that it can be something simple like I saw a blue car go down the street and it triggers an incident that I remembered 10 years ago. And I can't even believe I'm still thinking about that blue car. Is
Yeah.
it good to go back and think? Is there just kind of let them go? What's the best process with that?
Well, we don't really get rid of our thoughts. And I think suppressing thoughts isn't a really beneficial thing for ourselves either. It's just acknowledging that, wow, that blue car triggered that memory. That was very odd. Or, what was it? And just kind of, face that memory. It's like, oh, wow, where did that come from? I'm glad I'm not back there. So it's just like, it's a memory. And just to be able to say, that's a memory. That's not where I am right now. And just, come back to where you're at.
Thank you for that because sometimes I think, why am I still thinking about that blue car or whatever it is? Because you think that you've resolved it, but yet it's still there.
Yeah, yeah, we do.
One comment said, it's helpful to me to tell others that's not my problem and I have no control over it.
Right. It is, yeah. To be able to say those things really, it really helps. Like all of that. And I think it's really nice to not ever say, I'm sorry about this, because it's a fact that you had a flat tire. I'm so sorry I had a flat tire. I had a flat tire today. I'm late. And just kind of work with that.
Personally, I find that just my observation of life is that humans work really hard at making their life as much in control that they possibly can. We
Mhm.
have nice houses, we have heat, we have air conditioning, we have good cars. We do as many things as we possibly can to make our life go easy. And then when these other things come up, my impression of myself anyway is that then I feel like, well, what didn't I control? What could I have changed?
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's our desire to have our schedules and our daily routines flow easily because it just keeps those emotions at, you know, perfect. And it's like it just lowers that, but life isn't that way. And when you look at how many people we interact with every day, things are going to be out of our control. So it's being able to do what we can to make those situations and times when we don't have any control less invasive to us.
I love how you said to not apologize for things we don't have control over. And something we can do too at our workplace is telling people they don't need to apologize. So if someone came in and said, I'm so sorry, I had a flat tire or whatever it may be, you can say, please don't apologize. You don't have control over that. So we can start to normalize that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so true.
Chris,
And I think it's,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Do you
I was
feel
gonna
like we
say,
really have more stress now than they did maybe 100 years ago?
well,
I
yeah.
wonder about that. Well, I wonder about that because they didn't have as nice houses. They were still stressing for food. They were still doing
Mhm.
farms by themselves and so I think personally, I think their stress level was very high. Is it just different levels or different kinds of stress?
I think it was all very different kinds of stress. I like to think I use like the pilgrims and those early colonists in the East Coast. The women would get together in a group and quilt, and the men would get together in the fields and make those stone walls. And so they had support. And the women were together and talking and sharing ideas and working that way. So that's one thing. The LDS or the Latter-day Saints, they had the Relief Society. They were there in relieving some of our problems and working as that team. That was that resource. I think since suburbia and living outside the, we just became these little nuclear families. We lost that community and it's become individual. You have to do this all by yourself. Somewhere all of that came. But we have added different things, the media, our social media. So whether we had to spend our time looking and hunting for food, for shelter, those were basic stressors. And now in our life, now we have stressors of being in part of a crowd, being approved of. So the basic human of that Maslow's hierarchy was our safety and shelter and food. And now we've added all these other things that we now stress over.
Thank you. That was really good. That really helped me. Thank you so much. Do we
You're
have
welcome.
any other questions? It's getting close to 1 o'clock. While we're waiting, we have a lot of thank yous. That this workshop is great, that people have really appreciated it, Chris. Just while we're kind of waiting
Great.
there. Sadie, is
Very
there
good.
anything you would like to end with today?
I am just so thankful for all the things that you shared and the discussions that we have had about stress. I think even just talking about it in this format makes it okay to know that feeling these things is normal, but to know there's also resources out there. There's also things that we can do to help alleviate that stress. And so I'm going to put our Healthy Lifestyles page. We have tons and tons of resources when it comes to this, and also our EAP has resources, but sometimes things are beyond your control. You've done endless things, and maybe you need to reach out to a counselor or get even more professional help involved because sometimes it just goes beyond our control.
Right.
But thank you so much, Chris, for
You're
everything.
so welcome. All right. Thanks for having me.